Okay, good evening. Today we are starting off with the 10th chapter of PMBOK 5th edition, and this chapter belongs to Project Communications Management. Now this is again an interesting topic because whatever you are doing in the project, whatever knowledge area, whatever planning you are doing, this all depends upon how well you communicate everything amongst the stakeholders and your team members. So communication enjoys its own status in project management and otherwise also. Again, like quality and risk, this is not only a subject of project management. This is something which relates to everybody in daily life, and even in operations we have to manage our communications. As far as PMI is concerned, project communication management includes the processes that are required to ensure timely and appropriate planning, collection, creation, distribution, storage, retrieval, management, control, monitoring, and the ultimate disposition of project information. Now there's a lot many things you have seen here. Planning, collection, creation, distribution. Now let me explain that. You see, the journey of communication starts right from the planning, where you plan how do you intend communicating. So all these subsequent things like collection, creation, distribution, this all has to be planned while you are planning. Now, what are you planning here? First of all, what needs to be collected? What information needs to be collected? You have to identify all that information which needs to be collected. Can you can you listen to me? Emotion, can you listen to me?
Yes, sir. I can. It's fine.
Did you lose some of the portion? There was bad connection. I thought maybe you couldn't hear something. Anyway, so I was talking about uh, you plan you plan what to collect, what information to collect. Naturally, you see, it is all the interaction which could happen amongst all the stakeholders. I am not talking about only the team members. Project is not about the team members only. Yes, I agree that there is a lot of coordination and communication required amongst the team members, and that is very necessary. But at the same time, all the stakeholders are playing some role in the project, and a lot of information needs to travel up and down amongst the stakeholders. So it is not only about the project or the project management team, but the all the stakeholders. So we are trying to see who needs what information and when. So we plan what information is to be collected, then how that information will be created, who will create that information, who has the responsibility of creating that information, to whom this communication needs to be distributed, where it is supposed to be stored, when, how and why should it be retrieved from that storage, how will it be managed, how the whole communication will be managed throughout the life of the project, and controlled and monitored, and ultimately when this information is no more required, what is the disposal of this information. So there are a lot many things which needs to be very carefully planned right in the planning. So the single process of plan communication management would be a wholesome job addressing each and every aspect I have just mentioned to you. So you see, this is not a simple job. Project manager's life is spent communicating all the time. Most of the time of the project manager is spent in communications with their team members and other stakeholders, no matter if they are internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, but he is all the time running from pillar to post and ensuring some communications are going on. So What is your expectation? How much time should we be spending on communications? I mean, project manager, how much time of the project manager should be spent communicating? Yes, Mohsin?
I think it's a continuous process, like it goes on from the beginning till the end. Without communication, things cannot be integrated properly, I would say.
Exactly. You see, project manager is not supposed to physically do any job of the project. He is a coordinator. He is to guide and he has to lead the initiative. So his people are working, his team is working. He is just providing them guidance. So when he is providing the guidance, even then he is communicating. So it is safely said that 90% of project managers' time is spent communicating. And this is very accurate because the physical work done by project manager is hardly 10% of the whole time. 90% of the time he is running from pillar to post, communicating one thing or the other with some of the stakeholders. Now, out of this 90%, within this 90% of communication, naturally we expect that most of the communication should be recorded, should be documented. That means we need most of the communication, if not all, then most of the communication to be in written format. Everything must be recorded somewhere, documented somewhere. So we prefer that most of the communication must be written, but unfortunately, there are a lot many things happening in a project which are done verbally and which probably cannot be converted into written form. So what should be the balance between the written work and the verbal work? Verbal communication and written communication. It is generally said that although there is a tendency that most of the communication which goes on in the project right now is verbal and very less communication is done in writing, which is not a good habit. So this pattern must be reversed. And by reversing, I mean most of the communication should be written and some of the communication should be can be verbal. Now, if that be the case, then more than 50% of the communication must be written. So generally, it is said that 55% of the total communication must be written, remaining 45% may be verbal. So this percentage is certain just to ensure that more of it is documented, right? Do you get my point?
No, sir, I missed the last part. Like,
Okay. But I mean,
how to document the verbal?
you see, verbal communication has no record. And although we have to communicate verbally a lot many things, we have to pass on instructions and we can't write down everything. This is not feasible, this is not possible to write down each and every verbal order to commit or any verbal communication which goes on, whether it is formal or informal. We cannot record everything, we cannot document everything. Still, we don't want to lose track of the things and we do want to have evidence of everything. So we want, this is for better communication, there must be more documentation, there must be more record, and record could be kept in written format. So to curb the tendency of having more of verbal communication, we are trying to enforce more of written communication. And written communication, therefore, should be more than 50%. That is, ascertained to be 55% at least of the project work should be properly documented and in written format. Remaining 45% can be verbal. We cannot completely eliminate the verbal aspect. Therefore, we have enforced, we have tried that more of the communication, 55% of the communication should be at least written. Now you get my point.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, that is one thing that you communicate. The second important thing is you communicate effectively. What is effective communication? Right? You see, we are actually very poor in communicating. What can be said in a sentence, we waste a complete paragraph explaining that. That's because we do not have good language skills. We do not economize on words, and we are not being able to communicate effectively, whether it is written expression or verbal expression. You might have seen some people, when they try to say something, they just can't say it straight in few words. They have to give you a very long story, and sometimes they miss the whole point in that long story, and actual point which had to be made is no more there at all. So an effective communication should be, again my network connection is having problem. Are you still able to listen to me?
Yes, sir. I can.
Okay, okay. So if we can somehow communicate effectively, that creates a bridge between the diverse stakeholders who may have different cultural and organizational backgrounds, different levels of expertise, and different perspectives and interests, which impact have an influence upon the project execution or outcome. So you must consider that you are talking to a diverse audience. You are not only talking to your team members or the people you know or who know you, but you are also talking to people you don't know, and they are from a diverse background, and they perceive things in some other way than what you assume is suitable. So you have to talk in their language, and you still have to be communicating effectively. Therefore, you must design your message very carefully. In communication management, we have got three processes here, and they're pretty simple, because in planning process group, we have plan communication management. And in plan communication management, what I expressed earlier, we plan for collection, creation, distribution, storage, retrieval, management, control, monitoring, all this, and disposal of the project information. So we plan in detail about those things. And not only that, we chalk out a detailed plan for execution. How are we going to manage this communication? And later in control, how are we going to control the communication? In manage communication, it means while the communications are happening, what measures you have to take at that point in time during execution. How can you make your communications more effective? And when the communication has happened, a specific communication has occurred, then you can postmortem that communication and see what went wrong and what was right. And accordingly, you can adjust your future communication, you can control your communications, and ultimately this may even require a change request. Maybe you realize that a new communication channel has to be opened, further communication can be done. Now, when I talked about a communication channel, let us discuss what a communication channel is. Between any two entities or people or groups, there is a communication channel. This communication channel is a two-way channel on which they can transfer messages from here to there. Now, it is not, you know, we are not going to have only one kind of communication. It could be a verbal communication, it could be a written communication, it could be, a email, it could be a message, it could be, you are talking to someone, that is also a communication. So it could be any kind of communication. So when I say A and B has one communication channel, that means through that communication channel, they can use any mechanism to communicate anything to each other, both ways. So you don't have to say there are two communication channels between two people. No, there is only one communication channel between two people. So if that be the case, what is the maximum number of channels which can be opened between three people? Yes, please.
Sir, two,
Two.
like
Okay.
verbal and non-verbal.
No. I have said whether it is verbal, whether it is non-verbal, written, formal, informal, whatever kind of communication, if the channel exists, the communication, any communication can happen. So it matters if the channel exists. If there is a channel between the two, then you can communicate anything. But I am saying if there are three people, sorry, if there are two people, there could be one channel required. If there are three people, how many channels are required? Let me say this is one person, this is another person, this is another person. So,
Three channels.
yes, everybody should be able to communicate with each other. Like this person can communicate with this person can also communicate with this person. This is A. Now coming over to B, B can communicate already with A, channel already exists, but there is no channel between B and C, so we create a channel. So look at C. C has already a connection with A and C has already a connection with B. So no more channel. So we have got 1, 2 and 3 communication channels in this case. Okay, let us try to find out how many communication channels will be there amongst 4 people. Yes, please.
Six.
6. So A talks to B, A talks to C, A talks to D. B is already talking to A, B talks to C, B talks to D. C is already talking to B, C is already talking to A, C talks to D. D is already talking to A and B and C. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 6 channels. Right?
Yes.
Okay, let us talk about the five people. Yes. How many channels? A to B, A to C, A to D, A to E, B to A, B to E, B to D, B to C, C to B, C to A, C to D, C to E, and then D, C has got
Nine.
here, and here. So we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and
Nine.
this is 10.
10.
10. So 10 channels. So can we come up with some kind of formula? You see, when we had two people, we had one channel, one person no channel, 3-person 6 channel, 4-person we had how many? 4-person 6 channel, 3-person 3 channel. 3-person was 3 and 5 is 10. So can we come up with some kind of formula for that? The formula is n into n minus 1 divided by 2. N is the number of stakeholders. So let's say there are 6 stakeholders, or say 5. So 5 into 4 divided by 2 is 10, right? If there are 6, 6 into
Yes,
5
sir.
is 15. Did you get that?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Uh, can you just hold on a minute? I have a call. I'm sorry for the interruption. Right. Did you get what I meant to say? A simple formula is number of stakeholders multiplied by 1 less divided by 2. If there are 20 stakeholders, 20 into 19, whatever is the result divided by 2. That will be the maximum number of communication channels which can be opened amongst these stakeholders. Now, let me give you another question and let us see how do you solve it. Okay, are you ready? Okay, see, you have got 100 stakeholders in your project, 100 stakeholders in your project, and later there is a change request and 20 more are added. You understand my point? They were initially 100 stakeholders, but later in the time 20 more were added. Tell me the number of channels which will be added. Try to solve it.
$190, sir.
190. You have to think it over. How do you say 190?
Sir, I only calculated for. Okay, I got it. 1 second. Sir, the form is n into n minus 1. Yeah.
This is how much?
4950. Oh, no. Yeah, 4950.
Yes,
Sir, yeah,
20 more were added.
4950.
But what should you do? 20 more
Sir,
were. How many stakeholders you have now?
Sir, 2190 would be the answer.
2000?
190.
190. So now we have got 120 stakeholders into 119 divided by 2, that is equal to 7140,
7140.
and the difference is 22190. So these 2190 are the number of channels which will be added.
Yes, sir.
If you can solve this question, probably you will be able to solve any question related to this number of channels? And there will be definitely a question about this in the exam. Okay, you are comfortable with this?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's move on and see what else is in store for us. Okay, what are the different communication activities involved in these processes may often have many potential dimensions that need to be considered. You see, we can have internal or external communications going on. Internal communication would be within the project, and external communication with people from outside the project, like the customer, vendor, other projects, organization itself, and public, general public. Then we can also classify the communication into formal and informal. This is important because we would definitely like all the formal communication to be documented. Even we also would prefer to have informal communication if that could be documented, that could be available as a document. But still, if it can't be, then at least formal communication must be in writing. There are no two ways about it. The formal communication could be the reports, the minutes of the meeting, the briefings, the plans you are making. So all these documents are your formal communication. And informal communication could be emails, memos, inter-office notes, ad hoc discussions. So they also could be written, but they may be verbal most of the time. Then we have another dimension to look at the communication activities. They could be vertical or they could be horizontal. Vertical communication is either upwards or downwards, and horizontal communication is amongst your peers. Then another dimension could be official and unofficial communication. Official communication could be newsletters and annual reports and financial reports and all other things. And unofficial communication could be anything you are saying off the record, which is unofficial. So you are telling something in confidence, asking him not to quote it is off the record communication. Then looking at yet another aspect, that is the communication could be written or oral, or it could be even verbal or non-verbal. Now this is interesting. Written we understand. Oral is something which is oratory in nature. You say something. Now it is not just the matter of saying something, it is also how you say it. If it is, say I am talking to you, I am verbally talking to you, but I raise my voice at certain places and I lower it down to some levels sometimes. That adds emphasis on the points where I want to make emphasis. So voice inflections are a way of communicating verbally. This feature could not be there in a written communication. You can't have a voice inflection. This is only in a verbal communication. And then there are certain things which are non-verbal in nature. Like you see, you can't see me, therefore you can't see my body language. You can't see my expression and my impression. How do I move my body while I talk? Sometimes a lot of message is communicated through the body language. Have you heard about how can we translate the body language?
Not really, sir. But definitely we can judge if someone is like agitated or happy or, you know.
Exactly. But those things are right, okay, that is somehow could be expressed in body language. Mostly those expressions are depicted by the voice inflections. But body language is, you see, if I am giving you a motivational message and I am standing straight. What does that mean? Well, I am myself not, my body is not involved in the message. I am just reading it out to you. I am not emotionally involved in that message. If I am, then my hands will move. My expressions will assist me. I remember we used to have, extempore speeches in our class, and one of the speakers, once he came, well, I'm talking about when I was in army, and there the method of speech was that you had to stand straight and speak. You can't move. So that was very interesting. This man, whenever he used to come to the stage, he used to stand up, stand straight, and could not speak a single word. When somebody asked him to, talk on a topic, as soon as he started talking, he could not stand straight. He would start moving his hands and making expressions out of it, and sometimes he will go back on the blackboard and start writing on it and expressing himself completely. This is the body language. Actually, we can't live without the body language. Body language is really very important, and that is when we are communicating physically with other people. We can notice how much involved this person is in this discussion. Is he happy about it? Is he welcoming about it? Or he is just doing it for the sake of it? So body language means a lot as well, and that is also a one way of communication. So I have given you many communication parameters like internal and external, like formal and informal, vertical and horizontal, official and unofficial, written and oral, verbal and non-verbal. So these are all various ways and means by which you can communicate with your stakeholders. And each one of these communication mechanisms must be recorded, documented as much as possible. You see, informal communication, like, you are having an ad hoc talk, chit chat with someone, with your coworker. That is also a communication you are carrying out. And that can also have an effect on the project. Maybe you are spreading pessimism and all other people who are listening to you, they get disheartened, demotivated. So that also impacts, although you can say that it was an informal discussion, I just gave my point of view, but at the same time, you caused demotivation in the whole staff. So that is important, that we must control all kinds of communication, and we must know what all kinds of communication can go on. It is not only creating the progress report which is communication, or project plan or other communication documents. These are not the only communication mechanisms. Anything and everything which goes on in a project is communication, and you now know what types of communications could be there. Then on top of that, most communication skills are common for general management as well as project management. Same things we use there and here. There is no special communication for project management. Therefore, we can use any one of these mechanisms. Like you see, one is listening actively and effectively. Now, Mohsin, you tell me, what do you understand when I say listening actively and listening effectively? First, tell me, how can we listen effectively?
I think that would mean to understand.
To understand, listen with attention. You want to grasp the whole message. You don't want to miss anything. So you are being attentive. You are listening to each and everything. You are careful in listening. So you can capture whole of the message. Yes, that is listening effectively. If this is listening effectively, then what is listening actively? How do you listen actively?
I would say with enthusiasm.
And how do you show your enthusiasm?
I mean, sir, to be interested and,
And how do you
Uh,
show your interest?
Not sleeping during listening or something like that.
That is effective listening. If you are not sleeping and you are careful and you are attentive, that is active. That is effective listening. That is not active listening.
Then I am not really sure, sir.
Okay. If you are interested in what I am saying, how are you going to show me that you are involved?
By responding to things, by expressions or like showing that, I am really interested,
Okay.
or
But
maybe cross-questioning.
yes, exactly. That is the point. If you are interested, you must ask questions. You must interact. Active listening means to interact with the speaker. Now, what is the benefit of interacting? That it is, if you are not responding to what I am saying, then I would either think that you are getting all the message, or you are not getting anything at all. So between these two extremes, you could be anything. So this is on to you whether you are even effectively listening, or you are sleeping, or whatever you are doing. But if you start interacting with me, then I'll be sure that this man is listening to me attentively and he is going to ask me questions that will not only put me on uh, my tiptoes, but you will also be able to grasp the message more completely. Because if you cannot clearly understand one of the things I am saying, you can always ask me and that can be further clarified. So you are not absorbing only the effectively listening to what I am saying, but you are interacting with me and you are expanding the message as to your understanding. There is another perspective to that. Everyone has his limit for effective listening. Some people can listen for hours effectively, but most of the people cannot listen for more than 1 hour or 45 minutes. And after 45 minutes, they start losing track. So if you understand that you can carefully and attentively listen for 45 minutes, then after 45 minutes, you should stop the speaker and you should summarize the whole thing you have learned in the 45 minutes in just a small little paragraph and put it back as a question to the speaker, right? So, and ask him, is it what you mean? I have understood this from your talk. Is it what you mean? So that person will respond to you. If you are wrong, he would say, no, 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 I don't mean that. And then he will explain that, and that automatically will be clarified. Or if he agrees with you and he says you exactly got my message, then you get a confirmation that everything you received in last 45 minutes was correct. Moreover, the person who is speaking, he also is now confident that at least one person is listening to me carefully and he has got the message. You got my point?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is not enough to listen effectively because there is no measure for that. You must learn to listen actively. You might have heard about Dale Carnegie. Have
Who,
you?
sir? I'm sorry.
Dale Carnegie.
No, sir.
He was a famous person who almost invented all the mechanism of public speaking, and his books of how to speak and how to make friends are very popular. But he was, back in 60s, he was, the top author of such like books, and still he is honored as that. He quotes from his experience that once he was invited on a dinner, and there were many people, and the host introduced him to a biologist. Now, Dale Carnegie had nothing to do with biology. He did not understand, rather that person was a botanist. He didn't have anything to do with plants or anything, but he just listened to the person actively. For whole of the night or whatever the evening, discussion session was, he was standing with that person and he was listening to him actively. Naturally, he was asking questions, he was clarifying things. During that process, he added a lot to his knowledge. But at the end of the day, when the session was ending, that botanist grabbed the hand of Dale Carnegie and took him to the host and told him, "You introduced me to a wonderful person. He is a great speaker." Who is saying that? The botanist is saying that he is a great speaker. He talks very well. But what was Dale Carnegie doing? He was not talking. He was actually only listening attentively. Dale Carnegie bets that he did not initiate a single topic throughout the night. He just kept listening to the botanist, and whatever the botanist was talking about, Dale Carnegie only asked questions on that to clarify things. He did not introduce a new topic. He did not say anything of his own. Still, the other person thought that it was a mutual discussion going on. Do you get my point? Yes, please.
Yes, sir, I got it.
Okay. In continuation to that, questioning and probing ideas and situations to ensure better understanding. That is exactly what we did in active listening. We questioned the author or the speaker and we probed the ideas out of him, and we, talked in various situations. What if this happens? How do you apply that thing to this kind of scenario? So for better understanding of what he is saying, you may ask several questions and probe ideas in various situations. Then educating to increase team knowledge so that they can be more effective. So you need to make your team educated in these skills as if they can be more effective listeners. So in the free time, especially when you are just preparing the team, you should provide them a very good training in these areas, and that will definitely benefit. Apparently, it looks like that all such like trainings are a waste of time, but they are not actually waste of time. They actually add up to the skills of the people. So they will be better listeners, they will be, better communicators, better leaders, and so on. Fact-finding to identify or confirm information. So you try to, explore the information. If somebody has said something, you try to confirm that information from other sources and confirm that information if that is correct or not. Setting and managing expectations. So you must understand how to set expectation, how to manage expectation. You must commit only those things to the people you are talking to which you can stand by. And later, even if you have to change your stance, then it should be done in such a manner that the other person should feel it as a logical step, that it had to change and so it has changed. Persuading a person, team, or an organization to perform an action. Now, this is something which is influencing. You are trying to influence another person to work harder or to do something. How do you do that? Can you somehow, hypnotize that person into doing something? We actually are not hypnotizing anybody, but we are, creating such kind of environment. We are, giving that kind of motivation to that person as if he feel convinced. to do what we are asking him to do. And that is what leaders do. Leaders know how to influence, how to persuade their team members into doing the certain job which is required for the project. Motivating to provide encouragement or reassurance. So if you can somehow attach a reward system, the motivation will be high. Otherwise, people do not want to work more than what is required. But if there is a motivation, that can guide them. You should provide coaching to improve performance and achieve desired results. And that coaching can be on the work, on the job. But there should not be any negativism in this coaching. You should not snub people, but at the same time, you must make them feel that they are learning something new and they can use it effectively and positively. Then is negotiating to achieve mutually acceptable agreements between parties. The skill of negotiation is a great communication skill. You must be able to talk it out with different people. You maybe you are hiring a person and you are negotiating salary. So you give something, you take something, and ultimately there is a mutual consensus which must be reached and agreed by both the parties. So you must have very good negotiation skills. I think you understand that there are some people who are trained as negotiators. Normally they are psychologists and they know the nature of the human being. So they will somehow try to entice you into a negotiation. Then is a conflict resolution. Resolving conflicts to prevent disruptive impacts. Anything you feel is not suitable for the project, such conflicts may hinder the progress of the project. So such conflicts must be resolved and reduced much before they have occurred, and if they have already occurred, then you must try to eliminate them as soon as possible. And the most interesting part of them all is summarizing, recapping, and identifying the next steps. When you have reached a level, maybe the other person was speaking and now you have heard it for 45 minutes. Now you should be able to summarize what he was saying, recap on it, and then you can identify the next steps you need to take. So these are just few of the communication skills which I have highlighted in front of you, but these are thought-provoking, they are interesting, and probably you must always keep building these skills. No matter you are a PMP or not, but still in your common life also you need to have your communication skills much more improved. To talk about the communication skills, I would give you an example of Toastmasters Club. Have you heard about Toastmasters? What are they?
No, sir.
Okay. Uh, Look around in Google, find what a Toastmaster is. Toastmaster is a club. This is a club of communication and leadership. Now what they do is, there are in every club, about 20 to 25 people. They get together every week and they conduct certain kind of a meeting. And there is a specific agenda of that meeting, and that meeting is conducted according to that agenda exactly. In that meeting, everybody gets a chance to perform some communication skill. Somebody is delivering a speech, somebody is presiding over the whole session, somebody is the secretary of the stage, somebody is the evaluator, somebody is doing some other responsibilities. So all the 20 to 25 people, most of them would be performing some of the communication skills. Nobody teach there anything to you, but there is a pattern which you have to follow, and if you cannot speak well, your evaluation will tell you what is wrong and what is right. So if you keep attending these sessions, automatically your communication and leadership skills start enhancing. You normally do not do anything like that. You say, well, I am the biggest leader of the world, and you don't care about these kind of activities. But once you get down to that level that you are meeting regularly on every week basis with some colleagues, some people, then probably you are sparing time, maybe an hour or two every week, to do these things which otherwise you feel they are not important. And these things will actually add up to your communication and leadership skills. Once you become a member of Toastmasters Club, you will get two books. One is competent, one is called Competent Communicator, and other is called Competent Leader. Both books have got 10 projects in them. The communication projects are different types of speeches, and the leadership projects are 10 types of roles you have to play. You have to act as an evaluator, you have to be a stage secretary one of those days, and so on and so forth. And somebody, when you are performing those duties, somebody will be evaluating you. And you're on the same booklet which you are provided, there is an evaluation form. Somebody will be filling that evaluation form. If you complete the 10 projects of communication, and you are certified a competent communicator by Toastmasters International. If you complete 10 projects of leadership, you become competent leader. And similarly, there is yet another level. Then you go on to for the next level, and that is probably the bronze level. You get another two books, 10 projects of communication, 10 projects of leadership. So there are total of 4 steps. Anyone who completes these 40 projects will become 40 projects on each of the tracks. He will become a distinguished Toastmaster. That is the highest rank in Toastmasters, DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster. And I tell you, this is a wonderful experience, and if at all you can ever join a Toastmasters club near you, it is everywhere in the world. You can search it out, you will find one near you. I have got a friend who was employed in Jeddah, and he got into this Toastmaster thing, and he became, the best speaker. He was declared the best speaker, and I think it was not more than 6 months he joined the club, and he kept delivering those speeches and all that, and he became the best speaker in that region. Anyways, so to improve your communication and leadership skills, I personally feel that Toastmasters Club is a fantastic way of doing it. So if at all you can join that, that would be very nice. Okay. First process is plan communication management. Plan communication management is where you plan all those things which I just talked about. You know, how to collect the information and this, how to manage it, how to control it. The whole story is planned here. So plan communication management is the process of developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communications based on stakeholders' information needs and requirements. So these are the stakeholder information needs. What information a stakeholder needs to have, and when and how, this you have to determine, and available organizational assets. The key benefit of this process is that it identifies and documents the approach to communicate most effectively and efficiently with the stakeholders. The inputs, tools and techniques and outputs of this process are depicted in the diagram on the next page. Here it is. You see, the input is the project management plan as we understand, stakeholder register, because we have to identify all the communication channels amongst all the stakeholders. So we can't ignore anyone. I am not saying that if there are 100 stakeholders, that means 4,950 channels, all the 4,950 channels will never be opened. They are not required to be opened. Maybe, one of the stakeholders is a banker and one of, our team worker is a carpenter. So maybe that banker has never any need to talk to that carpenter. So that channel will never open. So there will be several channels which will not be opened. And if we will look at the needs, the information needs of all the stakeholders, who needs to communicate with whom, and only those channels will be opened which are necessarily required by the needs and expectations, information needs and expectations of the stakeholders. It is not based on the reports which we have to produce. It is based on all the stakeholders' information needs and expectations. So stakeholder register is required for that, and we will have the enterprise environmental factors and process assets as input. What are the tools we will be using? We will carry out a communication requirements analysis. Which communication channel must be established to fulfill the requirement of a customer? Maybe the requirement of the customer is meaningless. He just wants to be told everything in the project which is not really suitable for him. So we can advise him, why do you need this information? This information is not going to serve you anything. Remember, I am not talking about hiding something from someone. Actually, I would rather say the project should be completely transparent. Anyone who wants to know anything must be informed about that. You can't say this is a top secret thing, we can't tell you. If that person is a stakeholder, that he has all the right to know each and everything about the project. But some of the items are required by that person to be used, and there are many items which do not concern this person. So do not provide unnecessary information to people. If a specific information is not meant for a specific person and it is not going to be of any use to him, why are we unnecessarily providing or overloading him with that information? So we do not want to overload the information. At the same time, we do not want to hide anything. Until and unless this is some state secret or something, otherwise we are going to be completely transparent. Then we also have to see what is the communication technology available. It all depends upon your project environment. Maybe your project is in such a remote place that there is no internet connectivity, or you are located so far away that you cannot verbally communicate with each other. It is a virtual environment. So it will depend upon situation to situation, project to project, what communication technology is available. So we have to take that into account. Then what is the communication model? How the communication actually gets communicated? How does it happen? What is the model we are using? For example, if I am communicating with you, what is the model I am using? You can't see me, I can't see you. But I am speaking, you are listening, right? So when I try to send a message, I try to say something from my mouth, then first I will make up my mind. I will create that message at the back of my mind and convert it into words understandable by you, and then I will speak. So once I have spoken those words, they are free from my mouth. They get into the mic of the computer, get converted into the binary, and reach you at the other end. And naturally, there could be a lot of noise where I am sitting, or maybe internet connectivity, or on your end. So all that noise may disrupt the message, but something will be received at your end. Now your computer speaker will be speaking for me and you will be hearing it. Now from computer speaker to your ear, there is a medium which can also be noisy, which will render my message may be ineffective or not fully understood. So once you receive that message and you interpret it, then whatever you have interpreted, first of all you confirm by nodding your head or by confirming in a chat window or speaking out that yes, I have received the message. That would confirm that communication has completed. And if that was a question, then you would probably provide a response to that. So you will create your own message and that will travel through the same channel and come to me. This is the communication model we are using right now. Even if two people are not using any internet or other things, they are sitting in front of each other and they are talking, they are actually using a model. I make a message, I deliver it, it travels through a medium to your ears and then you conceive it. There is naturally a noise or whatever, and whatever you understand, you then respond accordingly. This is called a communication model. So every organization may have a different kind of model. Maybe in your organization, there might be a procedure where all communications have to be submitted to a post office or a central mailing office where they will collect all the information and then they will deliver it to the destination. And then collect the messages from the destination and deliver it to the requisite people. So this is the communication model. Then is the communication method. What method of communication are you using? We have already talked about active, inactive, and formal, informal, and whatever. So those are the different communication methods. Meetings are also important to outline the communication management plan. You can sit together and decide what should be included in the communication management plan, and as a result the communication management plan comes out of it and project documents may get updated. There are some important considerations here. You must understand clearly and you must specify these things in plan communication, that your plan communication must provide guideline and information about who needs what information, who is authorized to access that information. I'm not saying you write down the names. These questions must be included in your guideline and the answer to these questions must be provided in an arbitrary manner. Not specifically, because at this time, at this point in time, you do not know what communications are there. That will be ultimately planned in the communication. So the initial questions are these which have to be ultimately answered and the communication plan will surround that. Then they will need that information. That is the timing of that information. Where the information should be stored. Maybe it is an email, it is being stored in a mailbox. Maybe it is a letter coming by post and it is going to be filed and it can be found in the archives. What format the information should be stored in? Is it stored as a data or as a paper in a file? How the information can be retrieved? If somebody wants to access this information later, should we open up, give access to the database to that person if it is an electronic data, or should we allow that person to go to the archive and pull out that file which contains that letter? So what information can be retrieved and how? Whether time zone, language barrier and cross-cultural considerations need to be taken into account or not. This must be clearly specified if you are working in a multicultural environment or you are working across the globe in a virtual team. So your time zones will be different. I do not want to call someone in America when it is midnight. So I would rather prefer to talk to the relevant person when he is in office. So when he is in office, probably I am not in the office. I am done with my job and I am maybe enjoying home. So if these two people are to communicate across different time zones, they have to find a suitable time to do that. If there are any language barriers, You have to resolve that. Maybe there is a translation mechanism, or maybe you learn the other person's language, or maybe you electronically translate your message and it reaches the other party in that manner. So these considerations must be taken into account when you are trying to develop a communication management plan. What could be the sources of information in a project? Your organizational charts which show the hierarchy, who is responsible for what and who is answerable to whom, how is the organization structured. This is shown through the organizational charts, and that would help us greatly to find out what kind of communication could be sent to vertically, upwards or downwards. Project organization and stakeholder responsibility relationship. Within the project, what is your organization? Project is headed by project manager, how many teams and how they are interacting, and also what is the responsibility of a stakeholder? Well, uh, all stakeholders must have some responsibility and some accountability. You can't say that the end user does not have any responsibility. He just have to receive the deliverable. There is a responsibility the end user will also have, and that is he has the authority to accept or reject your output. Moreover, when I want to collect data, he is supposed to provide me reply to the questionnaires or questions I am asking him physically. Disciplines, departments and specialties involved in the project. Logistics of how many persons will be involved with the project and at what locations. Internal information needs, which may include when communicating within the organization, and external information, as we talked about, when communicating outside of the organization with maybe media, public, contractors or other people. And lastly, stakeholder information and communication requirements from within the stakeholder register. What does a specific stakeholder want? Communication technology. The method used to transfer information among project stakeholders may vary significantly. For example, a project team may use techniques that from brief conversations to extended meetings, or from simple written documents to extensive materials. So whatever kind of technology is available, that would be used. And factors that can affect the choice of communication technology is, number one, the urgency of the need of information. If an information is generated in USA and that is instantly to be informed to you, then maybe they will have to send a fax or a letter, or maybe they have to use internet and email you or something like that. So if there is such an emergency, then probably we can do that, or else we can even write a letter. So that all depends upon how urgent this job is. And secondly, availability of the technology. If the technology is not available, if internet is not available on my project, then probably I cannot make use of the fast media. What are the factors that can affect the choice of a communication technology? That these factors are, first of all, it should be easy to use. There is a need to ensure that the choice of communication technology is suitable for the project participants, and that appropriate training events are planned for where appropriate. You may have provided a communication mechanism, but you did not train your people. So that communication mechanism is useless. Only the inquisitive people would learn it, others will not. That is kind of an option. You mandatorily try to conduct a training for everyone and enforce that method uh, across the whole project. Project environment, there is a need to determine if the team will meet and operate on a face-to-face basis or in a virtual environment. So this all depends upon your project, but it is always better to have the team in the same room, as if they can interact with each other and they can work better. Whether they will be located in one or more multiple zones, whether they will use multiple languages for communication, and finally, whether there are any other project environment factors such as culture, etc., which may affect the communications. Then is the sensitivity and confidentiality of the information. If it is a state secret or if it is a business secret, then probably there is a need to determine if the information to be communicated is sensitive or confidential, and whether or not additional security measures are to be taken. Also, the most appropriate way to communicate the information should be considered. What is the best way of communicating the information, remaining within the current constraints? This is the basic communication model as I explained to you earlier. The person who is sending the communication, who is the sender, he encodes the message in his mind, maybe, or his machine, whatever, wherever, and then he transmits the message through a medium. That medium could be a wire, that medium could be a wireless, or it could be even the normal thick air. So if I'm speaking, it is passing through the air to your ear. So there might be some noise when the message is being transmitted. That message with that noise will be received and decoded and then understood by the receiver, and receiver will provide the acknowledgement of that message. Number two, the person who has received that information, now he may have to respond. So he now becomes the sender. He creates a message, encodes the message, sends it over, and you receive it. So there are cycle of communication completes. Various communication methods. There could be interactive communication. There could be push communication. There could be pull communication. Interactive communication could be between two or more parties performing a multi-directional exchange of information. It is the most efficient way to ensure a common understanding of all participants in specific topic and include meetings, phone calls, instant messages, video conferences, etc. So you have to interact, ask questions. Push communication. How do you push communication? When you send an email, when you send a message to someone, you are pushing that communication to that man's home or business facility. If I send you a letter, then I have pushed that information towards you. If I send you an email, I have pushed that information for you. So this is called push communication. And pull communication is that I am not sending you anything specifically, but whatever is to be done or whatever is to be communicated to you, I will place it at a mutually accessible place. Like you see, I want to sell my house, I will put the advertisement for selling the house on a notice board. This notice board can be seen by any interested party and they can get in touch with me. So this is a pull kind of communication. You have put the information onto the notice board and anyone can come and take advantage of that information and may try to buy that thing. So this is pull communication. In communication management plan, as I already told you, there are a lot many things it has to plan. It has to develop a collection and filing structure. This will include the methods used to gather, update, and store various types of information. Distribution structure specifies to whom information will flow and what method will be used to distribute various types of information. Then description of that information to be distributed includes the format, the content, level of detail, conventions, and definitions they will be used. Production schedules show each type of communication. It is a kind of a schedule of all the communication, when what should happen. Methods for accessing information, how information lying in a archive can be accessed and by whom. Method of updating and refining the communication management plan. If you need to revise the communication management plan, you can always do that, and that can be refined into a project progress report. So what all can be included in this communication management plan: stakeholder communication requirements, information to be communicated, including the language, format, context, exact format, how this form has to be filled, that is your information. Reason for the distribution of that information, why are we distributing it? What is the time frame or frequency for the distribution? When this report will be received? You say every month or every week. Of required information and receipt of acknowledgement or response, if applicable. Person responsible for communicating the information must be identified. Person responsible for authorizing release of the confidential information must be specified. Person or group who will receive the information, the receiver of the information. Method or techniques used to convey the information, such as memos, emails, etc. Resource allocated to communication activities. Escalation process, identifying time frames and the management chain for escalation of issues that cannot be resolved at a lower staff level. Method for updating and refining the communication management plan as the project progresses and develops. If you need to change anything, the communication has to change. Flow charts of the information flow in the project workflows will, with possible sequence of authorization, list of reports and meeting plans, etc. Communication constraints usually derive from a specific logistician or regulation, technology, or organizational policies. Next is the managed communication. Here we have the communication management plan, work performance report. It is coming from, you remember from where the work performance report is coming, monitor and control project work, which created the work performance report. Enterprise environmental and process assets, the tools are same, the communication technology, communication method, communication model, information management system, and performance reporting. Resultantly, you will have the project communications established, the project communication plan, project plan will be updated, project documents will be updated, and any organizational process assets will be also updated. So, what are the various techniques and considerations for managing the communication? We need to understand the sender-receiver models, incorporating feedback loops to provide opportunities to interaction. So, if there is a rule that the person receiving the message must be able to fully understand it, so this could be understood whether that man understands it or not. What is the choice of media? Is it internet, or how are you providing that information to the other party, and should that party know it? Your writing style, appropriate use of active versus passive voice, sentence structure and word choice, project management techniques, properly an agenda, and dealing with those conflicts. Presentation analysis, awareness of the impact of body language and design of visual aids. Listening actively, building consensus, overlooking obstacles, and then last is the listening quickly, clarifying and confirming in understanding and removal of barriers that reverse after completion. Information management system, the hard copy document management would be letters, memos, reports, and press releases. Electronic communication will have emails, fax, voice, telephone, video, and web conferencing websites and web publishing techniques. Last but not the least is the electronic project management tools, which interface to schedule and project management software, meeting and vital support. Now is the performance reporting. The performance reporting, uh, sorry, it should not be performance reporting here. Okay, let me see. Yeah, here is a tool performance reporting. So as a result, you will create the work performance report. It is not shown here. It should be shown here. So the performance reporting is the act of collecting and distributing performance information, including status reports, program measurements, and the forecast. So what all is elaborated in this report? It can be the analysis of the past performance, analysis of the project forecast, current state of the risks and issues, work completed during the project, what to be completed in the next point, summary of changes approved in the period. Last but not the least is the control communication. And in control communication, we are monitoring and controlling the communication throughout the entire project lifecycle to ensure the information needs of the stakeholder are met. We have project management plan, communication management plan, issue log, work performance data. Work performance data is one coming from execution and organizational process assets. Here I'll use the information management system as my tool, expert judgment and meetings, and ultimately I will be able to to output the work performance information. Change requests, project management plan updates, project document update, and organizational process assets. That's all for today. This was HR we covered today, and we will move on. We are left with three areas now, risk, procurement, and stakeholder, and I think we will be able to do it in next 1 or 2 days at least. Okay, ji. Any questions?
No, I guess it's good enough. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, dear. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Good night.